Welcome to the News Hour here on BBC Radio Cumbria. This is Jason Rushworth. We'll be looking at metal detectors across the county. One man in Keighley thinks he's dug up the Ark of the Covenant. Well, in ring form anyway. We'll find out more from him on the way. Also, illegal fly dumping across the Lake District. It's a blight on our county. And a new app that hopes to tackle it. Also, the latest sport, the weather, the traffic and travel, all across the News Hour here on BBC Radio Cumbria. Now on BBC Radio Cumbria, fly tipping is on the rise in parts of the Lake District, and I've seen it myself last year going westbound over Ulfa as I passed down into Eskdale. The sight of an old sofa thankfully didn't last long, thanks to myself and 3 other drivers who reported it. Now, according to a Freedom of Information request made by this show, the total number of fly tipping incidents in Cumbria increased by more than 10% since last year. There are now more incidents reported in Allerdale than any other of our local council areas. But what can be done? How can you combat illegal waste dumping here in the lakes? Well, I've been chatting with the inventor of a handy app, Martin Montague, who told me that it will benefit Cumbrians who want to get illegal fly tipping sorted.
It's a free app for reporting fly tipping, which is the first thing. And also it allows you to report fly tippers. It's the only nationwide app that if you get evidence of someone fly tipping, video, CCTV from the car, anywhere, anything like that, you can literally report it on there and we'll help to get those people prosecuted and fined.
So why did you develop it?
Basically, I live in a rural location and my road was shut for 2 weeks a year with fly tipping. And just in the last week itself, it's been done twice. And there was no nationwide reporting system. And I'd often go around reporting fly tipping and I'd struggle on the phones to local authorities because they have different ways of reporting, some online, some email, some on the phone. And also, when I got rid of some of my own waste, I was completely unaware that you needed to use a Tier 2 licensed waste carrier. Someone knocked on my door, I'd paid someone £200 to remove a load of stuff and it had all been fly tipped. It's
a big problem here in Cumbria, but what needs to be done to tackle it better?
Essentially, I think the biggest part of this is raising consumer awareness that they need to use licensed waste removal contractors. I know councils, we're working very closely with them, and they're all very proactive at trying to reduce this problem. They're amongst some of the best in the country as it goes.
So I'm driving over Ulfa to Eskdale and I see a dumped couch. Do I photo it and send it to you, or do I have to do anything else? And do you follow it through for me? You mentioned this Tier 2 licence.
Yeah, that's right. Department of Environment actually run a list of Tier 2 licensed waste contractors. So these are people that are legally allowed to move and dispose of your waste. But the problem is most consumers don't realise that they get fined for it if they don't use one of these guys and their stuff gets fly tipped. And the fines range from between £150 and £400 each, depending on where you live in the country.
Do you think those fines are steep enough to discourage people from fly tipping here in Cumbria?
I don't think there's enough fines being issued. I don't think that the maximum fines are being issued enough, and we need to be crushing more lorries. But I know that they've been crushing lorries this week. They're a very proactive area when it comes to prosecuting fly tippers and crushing lorries and stuff.
And so, Martin, why are you doing this? Are you making any money out of this app?
No, absolutely, totally not. Totally free in every way. I'm just really sick of the fly tipping and the damage it does to the environment, as well as the cost to the taxpayer. And I've just set my stall out to try and help with a standardised system that we can use on a nationwide basis to combat fly tipping and help bring these criminals to justice.
That's Martin Montague. A lot of his own money went into the fly tipping app. Now, borough councils as well as Allerdale have seen an increase, including Barrow-in-Furness Borough Council with a 5% increase on the year. South Lakes District Council up 3%, but fly tipping has come down in Carlisle and Copeland. I'm joined on the line by Graham Roddis, formerly of Whitehaven Town Councillor. Councillor Roddis, how has fly tipping affected you?
Look, first of all, what I'd like to say is that the gentleman you had, Martin, before, I think some of what he said was absolutely spot on. And I would like to talk to him to discuss his app, because I think that is the way to go. Look, fly tipping is a legal act, and I think he summed up really well by saying that residents must make sure people got a Tier 2 licence before they give their waste. But of course we're concerned about it because all fly tipping does damage the environment, as well as costly to councils, as we have seen.
What do you think has actually caused the rise in the first place?
Well, actually, if you look at the tonnage figures, which is what I look at, the tonnage figures compared to 2015-16, we've seen a continued decrease this year, 5% against those figures. And the 1920 figures, which have not been announced, but we take account of it every month, is shown a further 5%. I think one of the real issues, and DEFRA say this, they concluded that they are not confident the actual data is accurate. And that's the problem, because different councils throughout the country, what consistent they say is flight of it is different. And so therefore we need a consistent, because once you know what actually constitutes and where the flight of it is, then you can do something about it and actually focus on it.
Councillor Roddice, we're going to have to wrap that up now, but while you've been listening to all of that, you've been phoning our producer behind the glass with some of your comments. Let me read some of them out now. Jeff Banks from Frizzington says they have an amazing municipal dump there, which sees a lot of traffic through the town to get to it. Most people are following the rules. Kathy in Bootle says it's a blight on the landscape and doesn't think an app will solve it. And Kath from Egremont says fines should be higher. Thank you very much for contacting the News Hour. Remember, you can still do so at any time on Twitter at BBC_Cumbria. You can email radiocumbria@bbc.co.uk, or you can call the studio on 0845 305 1122. Still to come on BBC Radio Cumbria, news headlines with Molly Brewer, the latest traffic and travel with Yackers, and also what's happening sports-wise. But firstly, I'm going to give you a bit of a sound effect. So if you remember BBC Radio Cumbria years ago, we'd have the secret sound. What do you think this sound is here? That's the sound every metal detector dreams of hearing. Is it the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, or just another beer bottle top? Tom Clark has been showing me some of the other treasures he's discovered, as well as the big one, which is worth 10 times the value of his own metal detector.
It's the first Saxon coin that I ever found. Well, you can see there's a date there, 823. So that's a Saxon, and that's the first Saxon coin that I ever found. And I've still got that today. The one that's being auctioned, I just put them to one side, and when I got enough things, I would take them to the museum. In those days, they didn't have recorders like they've got today. You used to have to leave them there. They would give you a receipt or something like that if there was someone there that could give a receipt. Not so efficient as it is today. So that's why they weren't looked at properly all the time. I think this is what happened with this ring. It was put in with another few rings that were modern in a paper bag, and I think somebody got hold of it, looked down into the bag, saw that they were modern rings, and just said, these are modern rings, and give them back.
So when you were having the clear out, what inspired you to go back and say, I'll have another shot at this?
Over that period of time, they'd been moved from one place to another. They'd been put into a tin box with other bits and pieces. About 8 months ago, I thought I'd have a little sort out some of my cupboards in the garage. I'm not going to show you them because they're a mess. And I opened it up, and there was all kinds of things in there. There was coins, there was lots of pennies, the old pennies that we used to have, and 2 shilling pieces and things like that. And then there was just this little bag with the rings in. And I just tipped them out, and I realised then that one ring was a really old ring. I identified it as a seal ring. Over the years, I've become accustomed to seeing seal rings. I didn't know that I'd got a seal ring. I thought that they were just rings and they were just left in there. When we started to straighten the garage out, I found the box again.
So it's oval-shaped ring with an inscription around the gold outside, and on the inside it's an indented pattern of
Mars, the god Mars. And I think he's carrying a spear and something else I can't make out in the other hand. There might be a cloak in there, but he's got a spear. You can see it there. The spear goes across his shoulder there.
So who would have used a ring like this?
I should think. Not a merchant, I wouldn't say, but I would say someone that was serving maybe someone else of high rank, and they would have this ring with their motive or whatever you like on there, so that when they sealed documents, they would know that person sealed that document. That's who it's come from.
So the inscription on the outside of the ring which surrounds Mars, what does that translate as?
It's something like, because they can't quite get it, but it's something like, I now know the truth, or the truth is known to me. It's in Latin, you see.
Which is quite apt to put on the letter, because only you know what's in the letter.
Yeah, something like that, you know. They'd make up their own thing and put it on so that no one else would have that. And I would think that he would be travelling the country, either visiting estates and things like that. When he took payments for rents and things like that, he would give them a document with that seal on it, saying it had been paid and things like that, and that was their proof.
So how long has this been in the ground?
Well, if it's 1350, they reckon, it's about 1350. It could be earlier than that, but then it's like 700 odd years, isn't it? Looking at it, it doesn't look very worn.
So it's a very special auction day, and it's a day of Historiana, and lots of items are going up that have been found by metal detectors. Do you think yours will be the star performer?
I hope it is. I do hope it is. I mean, they valued it at around about 10 to 12,000. If you get people interested, then it could go on and on and on. Once they get up to the thousands, you know, and they start going up in hopefully £500 a time, maybe, you know, it will soon mount up, you know. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It's a fantastic ring. I've seen lots of seal rings. I've never seen one so refined as this one is. It's so delicate. Only a person that had servants to do his work for him would wear that ring.